Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. UFC Fight Night Kansas City, Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen just ended, and this is going to be my UFC Kansas City post-fight. I'm mainly going to discuss the main event, Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen, but I'm going to discuss the rest of the main card along with some notable fights on the prelims. If you guys want me to do future post-fights where I break down every single fight on the card briefly, let me know down in the comments. That's something I've done a couple times in the past, but I'd rather just touch on all the notable fights and mainly break down the main event. So the main event, Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen. Max Holloway wins via decision, and this was exactly what I anticipated going into this fight. This fight pretty much played out how I thought it would, outside of, Arnold Allen winning the 5th round, but round by round scoring. And I don't think there's any controversy, regarding the scorecards, but round by round scoring. I had round 1, I thought it was clearly Max. I thought he landed the better shots. You had Allen that landed like one overhand left in the first round, but you had Max Holloway landing the better shots, outstriking him, landing good combinations on the feet. Round 1 was Max Holloway, clear 10-9, but it was a competitive round. Round 2, you had 2 early big shots from Arnold Allen. I believe one was a heavy left hand and one was actually a really good right hand. But then after that, it kind of fizzled out and Max Holloway was landing good body shots, good combinations, good calf kicks. It was like early, very early, like the first minute of the second round. He clipped him with the right hand, I think it was. And then Max Holloway's demeanor kind of changed and he kind of was like, just kind of moving for a bit, maybe for like a minute and a half or so before he started to get his rhythm back and started to feel confident. I noticed his demeanor change, but then once he did, he started landing combinations again, landing leg kicks, landing body shots. And I thought round 2 was razor close, but I thought Max Holloway landed more damage throughout, the second round. Outside of those 2 big shots early from Arnold Allen, which didn't rock Max Holloway, the round was a lot Max Holloway landing combinations and calf kicks. Round 3, this was clearly Max Holloway's round. He was landing good body kicks, landing good leg kicks. He was landing good combinations. And in round 3, I started to notice a little bit of a difference in the fight. It seemed like in round 3, Max Holloway made a conscious effort to start kind of pushing forward himself. Most of the fight up until that point, he was backing up. And don't get me wrong, he was still backing up in the 3rd round. But it seemed like he was holding his ground a bit more in that 3rd round. He landed the better shots. Towards the end of the round, he was slamming body kicks. Round 3, clear Max Holloway. And probably the most clear round of the fight outside of maybe round 5. But there's a little bit of controversy surrounding round 5. We'll talk about that in a second. Round 4 was a close round. Max Holloway just landed the better shots. You had 2 big left hands from Arnold Allen in round 4. But outside of that, it was Max Holloway's round, and Max Holloway landed a big right hand. I think it was towards the end of round 4. I thought round 4 was Max Holloway as well, and I thought it was pretty clear. And then round 5. Round 5 was all Arnold Allen. He decided, look, I need to finish. They told him in his corner, you need to finish. It was all Arnold Allen until like the last 10 seconds where Max Holloway landed some good shots and dropped Arnold Allen down to a knee. I still wouldn't give it to Holloway just because he dropped him at the end, but he did have him hurt there. But I still think all the damage that Arnold Allen landed early in that 5th round, he was trucking forward, landing the left hand. He landed a head kick that was pretty clean and then landed like a partial head kick. And Max was just running for his life, backing up, circling well, and just still eating shots because Arnold Allen came out super aggressive in the 5th round. So ultimately, I scored it 4-1, and I had round 5 for Arnold Allen. I don't have a problem if you scored it 3-2, giving round 2 to Arnold Allen and round 5 to Arnold Allen. But I think Max Holloway clearly won the fight. Anyone's even speculating that Arnold Allen won the fight is delusional. His corner knew he lost the fight. And also, you could just tell, when they were announcing the decision, he already, before the decision was even ready, took his hand away from the ref and started clapping, clapping for Max Holloway. But I don't think either guy's stock went down in this fight. Going in this fight, it was like, is Arnold Allen going to retire Max Holloway? And I never believed that narrative. Even if he lost this fight, I believe Max Holloway would still stick around for a while. He's still very young. He's still very good. But for me, the story of this fight, and I hate to take away from Max Holloway's win because it was a solid win, it's Arnold Allen, honestly, because we haven't really seen him have a massive step up in competition. We saw him fight Calvin Kattar, which was a big step up. But, he was winning, but the fight ended on a kind of a weird injury where Calvin Kattar kind of throws a jumping knee, and then his knee blows out when he lands. This was a fight where he was very competitive with Max Holloway, and I hate elevating guys off of losses, but, he showed he could hang in there with Max Holloway. And I know a lot of people are also going to say, well, if he had done in the 5th round, if Arnold Allen had done in the 5th round, that same thing in the other rounds, in the earlier rounds, maybe he would have won the fight. It comes down to stamina, but that's also partially true. But the strategy for Arnold Allen going into this fight was just to be super aggressive and look to finish Max Holloway, look to land that big left hand. It was just the footwork of Max Holloway, the head movement of Max Holloway, and the offense of Max Holloway himself that just made it difficult for Arnold Allen. But still, he showed, up until this point, I thought the jury was out on Arnold Allen. How good is he really? Does he really belong with the top tier featherweights? This fight showed to me what we already kind of thought we knew, that he definitely belongs to have a very competitive fight with Max Holloway, landed good shots. And I can see a scenario where Arnold Allen builds back, gets 1-2 wins. He's right back in the title picture. And who knows what's going to be the future of the division. But in this fight, he showed that he has good technical striking. He finally went 5 rounds, and he went 5 rounds with Max Holloway. And he won the 5th round against Max Holloway. How crazy is that? Yair Rodriguez arguably won round 5 against Max Holloway, and Arnold Allen definitely won round 5 against Max Holloway, which is just crazy to me because Max Holloway is known for his pace. And in my prediction video, even though I predicted Max Holloway by decision, I kind of discussed, Max Holloway weaponizes his pace. In this fight, he wasn't really able to do it because he was constantly on the back foot. From the first round on, Arnold Allen is just moving forward. Now, after that 3rd round, Max Holloway did start to back him up a little bit, but just a little bit. And Max Holloway is more or less just standing his ground and throwing more combinations. But in this fight, he just wasn't able to just put the level of pressure that he would put on certain guys. What he did to Calvin Kattar, he wasn't able to do that to Arnold Allen. And Arnold Allen took some good shots from Max Holloway, was able to just eat them and keep moving on. Wasn't really hurt, but Max Holloway looked phenomenal in this fight. Anybody saying that Max Holloway's washed up was completely wrong. He lost to the best in the world in Alexander Volkanovski. And yes, he got outclassed, but he showed in this fight he still got it. The combinations looked good. The hands looked fast. The chin looked good. People speculating about the chin of Max Holloway. One of these days it's going to go. But against Arnold Allen, no, it did not go. He ate some good shots. He never really appeared, crazy rocked or anything. In the 2nd round, he took that big shot and kind of, it seemed like he kind of was more patient after that and was less likely to throw combinations. But he showed he had a good chin. He showed his cardio is still there. He showed his striking is still there. There wasn't really much grappling in this fight. There was a little bit of clinch work, and it seemed like there wasn't really so much. But I want to say Max Holloway kind of got the better of it, but there was so little of it. You really can't say, who's the better grappler in this fight. I'm shocked that Arnold Allen didn't mix in the clinch work better, but I think because he was having success with that left hand multiple times throughout early in the fight, I think he thought inevitably he was going to find Max Holloway and hurt him and finish him. And that just never came because Max Holloway is so durable. He can take your best punch, eat it, and continue to hit you with combinations. So I think both guys' stock goes up in this fight. Honestly, the people who were kind of discounting Max Holloway and saying, this is going to be the beginning of the end for Max Holloway after that beating against Alexander Volkanovski at 276 were proven wrong. Everything still appears to be there. He's just 2nd best in the division. That's what's unfortunate for Max Holloway. But I don't think he's in a terrible spot, and we'll talk about that in a second. But what would be next for Arnold Allen now that he's lost a fight? There's really a couple different options you could kind of give him, but I think the fight that makes the most sense would be Arnold Allen versus Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega coming off a loss to Yair Rodriguez. Arnold Allen now coming off a loss to Max Holloway. It just makes perfect sense right now. And I don't know when Brian Ortega is going to return. He had that shoulder injury in his last fight against Yair. And Arnold Allen's going to be out for a bit. He took some damage in this fight. He's going to, want to relax for a bit before he gets back into training camp. So I think Arnold Allen, Brian Ortega makes perfect sense for his next fight. Outside of that, the Calvin Kattar fight's not going to happen. They already fought. Calvin Kattar, who knows when he's going to return. You could do the Korean Zombie, but I'm not really interested in that. I think that's going to be a one-sided beating. Arnold Allen's definitely going to win that fight. Or you could do Giga Chikadze, but I can't remember. I think Giga Chikadze might have had a fight, but I think somebody got injured. I think it was Korean Zombie. It was supposed to be. So I don't know if they're going to rebook that. But I think the fight that makes the most sense is Arnold Allen versus Brian Ortega next. And honestly, depending on how the division goes, he can be right back in that title picture. If Volkanovski beats Yair Rodriguez and is still champion, depending on like Ilia Topuria in his next fight, against Josh Emmett, depending on how that plays out, Arnold Allen can be right back in the title picture with one win if Volkanovski is still the champ. Now, what's going on with Max Holloway? Because he's kind of in no man's land. He's basically number one in the division. I know technically Yair is ranked number one as an interim champion, but Max Holloway has a win over Yair, and it's a recent win over Yair. So Max Holloway is kind of in a position where us as fans and also for the UFC themselves, are we going to have Max Holloway just knocking off all the contenders before they can get to a title shot because Max Holloway is just so good, but Max Holloway is never going to fight for the belt because Volkanovski's already beaten him 3 times, which the last fight being the most decisive in a one-sided beatdown for Volkanovski. I don't necessarily think that the, state of the division for Max Holloway is that bad because Max Holloway really, he's going to sit out for a bit after this. And I think what he can do is, first off, he can cross his fingers and hope that Yair Rodriguez beats Volkanovski. Now, that's no guarantee, but also if Yair beats Volkanovski, I think there'll be a rematch. So still, that's not the most ideal scenario. But if Volkanovski beats Yair, there is a chance that Volkanovski says, look, I want another shot at the lightweight title. I was this close. I was very competitive against Islam Makhachev. I want another shot at the lightweight belt. And then Max Holloway kind of re-enters that title picture. Volkanovski may go up. He may decide never to come back down, even if he loses. And if he wins, I doubt he ever comes back down to featherweight, especially at that point. And who knows, Volkanovski may get to a point where he's proven everything he could possibly prove, and he may retire. Max Holloway's still very young. He's only, I think, 31 years old. So I'm not saying that this is all definitively going to happen and Volkanovski won't be at the top of the division. But Max Holloway, it's not as bad as people are making it out to be. But as far as anyone suggesting, could there be a fourth fight between Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski? Absolutely not. There would have to be some super extreme circumstances. Volkanovski would have to look like he's fallen off a cliff. And you have to have Max Holloway like Rumble Johnson first round KOing guys in the featherweight division and just make it as no other possible option. And he would have to be screaming from the rooftops, I want a title shot. Fans would have to want it. And that's what would have to happen for Max Holloway to get a title shot. But again, he can hope that Yair wins. And he can hope that Volkanovski, if he does beat Yair, he moves up to lightweight. It's not a terrible spot to be in the division. But outside of that, you're going to have to book him with guys that aren't fighting for belts. So if Max Holloway, if Volkanovski just beats Yair and then he's staying in the division, you're going to have to book Max against guys that necessarily aren't close to title shots because I don't want to see Max basically, gatekeep the featherweight title and just kind of knock off contenders before they can get to Volkanovski. That would be a horrible situation for the division. So hopefully it doesn't come to that. People suggesting Max could go up to lightweight, I don't think it's going to turn out well for him. He would get brutally KO'd by someone like Justin Gaethje. And I know he had the fight with Dustin Poirier, and I know it was competitive, but that fight with Dustin Poirier, it just showed the power differential between Max Holloway and the rest of the lightweight division. So I really don't think that's an option. But ultimately, he proved that, the time off after the Volkanovski beating did him some good. He's still one of the best featherweights of all time. He's still in his prime. He's still getting better. And it also, tonight, we learned that Arnold Allen belongs in the elite of the elite at 145 pounds. So overall, it was an exciting main event. It wasn't the craziest main event ever, but I really enjoyed it. And I feel like we got a lot of questions answered. We know where Max Holloway is. We know he's still in his prime. We still know he's one of the best. And Arnold Allen kind of proved himself tonight, even in a loss. He proved, he's still very young himself. He can make adjustments. And he has 5-round cardio, which was a big question mark going into this fight. He can make adjustments and then come back and potentially challenge for a 145-pound title in the future. Moving down the card to the co-main event. And by the way, guys, I hate to keep patting myself on the back. I went 10 out of 14 tonight. We'll talk about the ones I got wrong here in a second. But moving down the card, Edson Barboza versus Billy Quarantillo. First round, brutal knee KO for Edson Barboza. This was a fun fight while it lasted. Billy Quarantillo was just moving forward, throwing sloppy shots. And Edson Barboza, honestly, his striking has regressed. As crazy as that sounds to say coming off a spectacular first round KO, Barboza's striking has regressed. He's not as defensive as he once was. Billy Q was landing good shots on him, even though it was very sloppy. Now, don't get me wrong. Barboza was landing good shots as well. Billy Quarantillo looked for a couple takedowns. Barboza was able to stuff him. And then Billy Quarantillo lands a overhand right. And then with his like weird herky-jerky style, he like leans down as he lands the overhand right. Barboza just fires a knee straight up the middle, lands right on Billy Quarantillo's chin, and absolutely melts him. I mean, he was bent in half. Now, when he woke up, he started complaining about the stoppage. He had no idea what had happened. But this fight was amazing while it lasted. We've seen Edson Barboza land some good leg kicks in this fight. We've seen Quarantillo show that he can strike with Edson Barboza, but Edson Barboza isn't what he once was, back when he was spinning wheel kick, KOing, Terry Edom back in the day. But Barboza's shown that he's not completely washed up. He lost to Bryce Mitchell, but it was because of the pressure. But Billy Q, he has a style where he's just kind of like, he wears you down. He kind of has a Bryce Mitchell similar style without the crazy extreme grappling. And in this fight, he just got caught. If anybody eats that knee in the featherweight division, they're most likely going to sleep. It was perfectly placed, but it just showed kind of the holes in Billy Q's game because the striking is very sloppy. It's very forced. It's not super technical. And if Edson Barboza catches you out of position, he will sleep you. And Edson Barboza, we've seen for a long time, the knees and the kicks are the best part of his game. We saw what he did to Beneil Dariush many years ago. And he did that same thing basically to Billy Quarantillo in this fight. He got overconfident, got overzealous, came rushing in, throwing combinations like he was for the first 2 minutes. And Barboza found that chin and absolutely slept him. Where do these guys go from here? I'm not really quite sure. Edson Barboza, I don't believe he's ever going to be a top contender in the featherweight division again. Billy Quarantillo, I never believed he was going to be a top contender in the division. And that's why I picked against him in this fight. I thought Edson Barboza, okay, Edson Barboza isn't completely washed up yet. I believe he will beat Billy Quarantillo. But this is kind of one of those fights where it was a fun fight. It was great for the division, I guess. It was fun to watch. But it really wasn't super meaningful in the division. This card had a wonky bout order, and that's why we're going to talk about at least one prelim on the card. Moving down the card, Azamat Murzakanov versus Dustin Jacoby. This fight actually had me really pissed off. Azamat looked very good in the first 2 rounds. The striking was very good. Didn't really look for any takedowns. Way more athletic than he actually looks. Landed good shots. Dustin Jacoby had a massive reach advantage. Didn't even look like it in this fight. Azamat was out striking him for the first 2 rounds, landing good shots, even rocked him, I think, at the end of the second round, dropped him, kind of fell on his face a little bit, but wasn't able to finish him. Never really mixing in the striking, but then the third round, Azamat was tired, and really in the third round, supposedly he said in the second round he thought he broke his arm. So maybe, that's a reason why he slowed down so significantly in the third round. Dustin Jacoby had the opportunity to get a third round KO. He was landing good shots. He was rushing forward. His corner told him at the end of the second round, you need to get a finish here. But instead, in the last minute, when he has this guy dead to rights, there was no doubt in my mind if Dustin Jacoby kept pushing the striking, he was landing at will. He could have finished Azamat. But he didn't. He started shooting in on takedowns. He shot in on double legs for the last minute and a half, 2 minutes of the round. Disgusting performance. He should be embarrassed. Cut him from the organization. Horrible fight IQ. And Azamat showed that, he's very good in the striking. He's more athletic than he actually looks. He can fight against a really good kickboxer in Dustin Jacoby. And, even with the length advantage for Dustin Jacoby, Azamat made it look like it didn't even exist because he was very fast. His movement in and out was very good. So I'm very interested to see where Azamat fits into the light heavyweight division, especially considering that division isn't particularly stacked. Moving down the card, Ion Cutelaba versus Tanner Boser. Ion Cutelaba TKOs Tanner Boser. Tanner Boser needs to be cut. He needs to be cut. They were both kind of tentative early, both throwing big shots. Tanner Boser got hurt badly. Ion Cutelaba follows him to the ground, looking for ground and pound. Tanner Boser looks like he's going to survive. He decides to post up on one arm while the other arm has like an underhook, and he's trying to get up against the cage, but leaving his chin wide open to just eat brutal ground and pound shots, basically up against the fence. So Cutelaba just smacks him with massive power shots. And instead of like dropping down on the ground and trying to cover up and just survive and weather the storm, he just sits there with one hand posted on the mat and the other one, digging an underhook. And he's just eating big shots. And, he's not necessarily out, but he's eating like 12 shots in a row, big power shots. And the ref just jumps in. He complained about it. This fight was 100% justifiable, stopped. And Tanner Boser moving down from heavyweight to light heavyweight, losing to Ion Cutelaba, who honestly is garbage in the division, in my opinion. I know I'm being super negative, but Cutelaba is very exciting to watch. He's not the top of the division by any means. Tanner Boser has no hope in the division. You know, if you're getting stopped, and the fight IQ there to just sit there eating shots up against the fence for no other reason than, oh, I'm going to try to force my way back to my feet. Horrible decision by him. Moving down the card, Pedro Munhoz versus Chris Gutierrez. Pedro Munhoz wins this fight. By the way, the Tanner Boser fight and the Dustin Jacoby fight are two of the picks I got wrong. And then the Chris Gutierrez fight, I picked Chris Gutierrez as well. So I got that pick wrong as well. There's 3 out of the 4 that I got wrong. Pedro Munhoz drops him in the first round, hurts him, follows him to the ground, out-grapples him for the rest of the round. Second round was close, but Pedro Munhoz was landing the better shots. Pedro Munhoz was putting pressure on him all round, landing the better shots. Second round was close, but I thought Pedro Munhoz was more active. Third round, Chris Gutierrez started to land, more, and then Pedro Munhoz wasn't really finding the range. And it was a close round. I think you could even give it to Munhoz, but I gave Chris Gutierrez the third round. So I had it 29-28 for Pedro Munhoz. Chris Gutierrez, I just think he got gunshot. He got hit early. He got rocked early. Pedro Munhoz was pressing, finding the chin. And I just think Gutierrez couldn't let his hands go. He was throwing like one-punch combinations. He wasn't throwing a lot of leg kicks. He looked good early. He was avoiding the leg kicks of Pedro Munhoz. But after he got rocked, he really just had nothing to offer. And it was really kind of an uninspired performance. He won the third round, but not a whole lot happened in the third round. And he just kind of outkicked him in the third round. It wasn't a spectacular round. And again, you could even give that round to Pedro Munhoz. So Pedro Munhoz, another scenario, we've been seeing it a lot recently, and we even saw it in the main event with Max Holloway and Arnold Allen. Another spot where you see the veteran turn back the up-and-coming contender. Chris Gutierrez was a guy that a lot of people had hope for in the future of the bantamweight division. Pedro Munhoz, I believe 36 years old, turns him back, clearly beats him, and Chris Gutierrez back to the drawing board. Moving down the card, Rafa García versus Clay Guida. Clay Guida needs to retire. He's a garbage can at this point. He's embarrassing himself. The UFC shouldn't even let him fight anymore. Dude just got damaged for 3 rounds. Just got brain damage over and over and over again. Rafa García honestly should have finished him. He just really had no killer instinct. Clay Guida is just bouncing around on his feet, just eating jabs left and right. That's basically the entire fight. Rafa García just jabbing Clay Guida's face off. And Clay Guida really didn't have any success in this fight. And he just kind of bounced around on the mat and just ate jabs all fight. Clay Guida fakes a retirement afterwards just to get a post-fight interview and then talks for 10 minutes, and DC has to run away from him while he's still talking to the mic. This dude loves the camera. This dude loves the attention. And to fake your retirement to get a post-fight interview and a loss is an embarrassment. And I said this live on stream, and I'll say this again. You guys can let me know what you think about down in the comments, but I will die on this hill. When Clay Guida does actually retire, he shouldn't get a post-fight moment in the cage, because I just think it's ridiculous, dude. You're going to fake your retirement so you can get a post-fight interview, so you can talk nonstop to the crowd about stuff people don't care about. And honestly, it's time for Clay Guida to retire. So that's even rubbing salt in the wound. Dude's going to fake a retirement when it's like, oh yeah, thank God. Good thing DC didn't say, yeah, it was about time you retired, before he told him it was a joke. It's time for Clay Guida to retire. I understand he's a legend in the sport, but Clay Guida hasn't been the Clay Guida of old since like 2012, 2013 at best. So Clay Guida, cut him from the organization. Don't give him a post-fight interview when he retires. I never want to see him fight again. And thank God, or actually, he's on the main card. I was going to say thank God he wasn't on the main card. Embarrassment. Main card, embarrassment. And we're going to get to that more in a second. Moving down the card, we'll talk about a couple prelims. We'll talk about the next 2 prelims. Bill Algeo, TJ Brown. Crazy fight. Back and forth fight. Both guys landing big shots. Bill Algeo hurts TJ Brown in the second round, and then just jumps on his back and gets a rear naked choke. It was a fun fight up until that point. I think I scored round 1 for TJ Brown. I think he landed the better shots in the first round. Maybe even hurt Bill Algeo. Bill Algeo was busted up. Fun fight from both guys. I think they might have got fight of the night. But Bill Algeo is like a Family Dollar version of Billy Quarantillo. Michael Bisping actually got him mixed up on the broadcast. He's just kind of a greedy guy who moves forward, kind of has sloppy striking, but he has determination. TJ Brown landed some good shots. He just ate him on the chin and then just continued to move forward. And he lost the first round. I believe I scored. I can't 100% remember. And then the second round, he catches TJ Brown with a big shot, drops him, starts landing some follow-up ground and pound, then jumps on the back, finds the rear naked choke, and submits him. Moving down the card, and this is where we get to an absolute disgrace by the UFC. we have Brandon Royval versus Matheus Nicolau. Why is this on the prelims? I talked about this in my live stream yesterday. This should not have been on the prelims. This is essentially a #1 contender fight in the flyweight division. This is an amazing flyweight fight, and they buried it on the prelims, and it was an amazing performance by Brandon Royval. Brandon Royval, I've been talking about since I had my channel, is probably my favorite flyweight fighter. He's nonstop action. He's nonstop excitement. He's super well-rounded. And, Matheus Nicolau kind of just likes to circle around the cage and look for counter shots. He basically runs for his life the entire fight, for lack of a better explanation. He uses his footwork and just looks to counter all fight. Brandon Royval came out there, was pressing nonstop. Nicolau landed a couple shots in that first round. Brandon Royval lands a picture-perfect knee, hurts Nicolau badly, follows up with a right hand, drops him to the ground, and then starts throwing brutal ground and pound elbows and KOs him in the first round. Statement win for Brandon Royval, and he should be next in line for the winner of, Devison Figueiredo, the winner of Brandon Moreno versus Alexandre Pantoja at UFC 290. And Royval said he wants to be the backup. So we know what that means in today's day and age. It starts to be a trend of backups getting title shots now. So everyone wants to be a backup. I think Brandon Royval deserves to be a backup on UFC 290. And I know he has a loss to Brandon Moreno, but he got injured in that fight. He kind of injured a rib. We didn't really get to see the fight play out. So that's a fight we could look forward to in the future. Matheus Nicolau just got caught. No shame in that. Brandon Royval is one of the best in the world. Royval, I think he could be a future champion. Dude's super scrappy, super good. He never lets, anybody hold him down and control him. Not that that's relevant to this fight. And he has great striking. He's super dynamic, and he has KO power in the flyweight division. Brandon Royval has it all. Okay, one other fight I want to talk about. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the whole entire card. I don't want this video to be 40 minutes. Joselyne Edwards versus Lucie Pudilová. What a horrible decision. Absolute horrible decision. You can make the argument Pudilová won 30-27. She out-grappled her for the majority of the fight. And I can't remember if it was the third or second round. Maybe you could have made an argument for Edwards. But honestly, I thought Lucie Pudilová clearly won this fight. The two judges gave it to Joselyne Edwards. Honestly, after I saw that decision, I wanted them to just cancel the card. I never wanted to see any more scorecards for the rest of the night. Horrible judging, horrible reffing tonight. There was times where people would be in full mounts and they'd be like, all right, let's get to work. Let's get to work. And then there was, what fight was it? I hate to go through every fight again, but Zak Cummings, Ed Herman. Ed Herman threw 2 illegal up kicks. The referee just kind of stood him up. The first time he didn't take a point. The second time he stood him up and he finally took a point. But it's like, at that point, he should have arguably been disqualified. Throwing 2 illegal techniques. By the way, both of them retired in the cage afterwards. Thank God for that, because they both needed to retire, especially Ed Herman. He's literally a punching bag at this point in time. And I'm not sure he even shows up sober. I think he's intoxicated in the cage. But yeah, the reffing was horrible tonight. The judging was horrible tonight. That's why I wanted to highlight that Edwards versus Pudilová fight. Tonight was an okay night. We didn't get like any crazy robberies outside of that one. And, it was a fun night. We had a night of exciting fights, and I went 10 out of 14, so I'm happy about that. My goal is to always go double digits in correct picks. That doesn't always happen, but tonight it did, so I'm very happy about that. Let me know what you guys think about the card. Let me know what you think should be next for Max Holloway, or what should his future be in the UFC moving forward with the 3 losses to Alexander Volkanovski. Do me a favor. We're so close to 10,000 subscribers, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to share this video. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.